In this video, we are going to talk about what's called the Carnot cycle. So far in these videos, we've been talking about the state function known as enthalpy. This one will get us into the state function known as entropy. So the Carnot cycle is an idealized version of an engine. We can think about it this way. So we have this piston right here, where in the first step, we have an isothermal expansion. So we add heat, and that causes this piston to move outward. So it's doing work on the surroundings, meaning that the work is negative. Then we have the adiabatic expansion. So we're no longer adding heat, but we are still expanding. So no heat's being added, but the temperature is changing. And we are still doing work, and so the work is negative because we're doing work on the surroundings. Then we have the isothermal compression, where now the piston is being pushed back down. So now we're losing heat. So this is isothermal. The temperature stays the same, but we are losing heat. Then we have the adiabatic compression, where now we're no longer losing heat, but the temperature is now changing. And in both of these steps, work is being done on the system. And so work is positive in this case. And so what's going on here is we have a high temperature reservoir. So we have heat coming from this high temperature reservoir going into our engine. And then we have this heat sink down here, so we can lose heat into this low temperature reservoir right here. And during this, the engine is doing work. So we have to have heat going from a high temperature to a low temperature. It's sort of passing through this engine, and in doing so, it's allowing the engine to do work. And so we can plot this way. So we have our isothermal expansion. So we have volume on the x-axis, pressure on the y-axis. So this follows this isotherm down here from A to B. So we see that we have heat coming in. So that would be coming from our high temperature reservoir. Then we have this adiabatic expansion right here, where no heat is coming in and the temperature is changing. So we see that the temperature is changing because we're going from one isotherm to the other isotherm. Then we have the isothermal compression. So now this would be when the piston is going back down. And so we're now having the compression, the volume is reducing, and we are losing heat, but we are now doing work onto the system. The temperature stays the same, so this is on an isotherm right here. Then we have the adiabatic compression. So now no heat is being lost or gained, but we are doing a compression, and that's because the system has work being done to it. And so now we have a positive change in temperature. So to kind of go over this once more, so step one is the reversible isothermal expansion. So heat enters from the high temperature reservoir, work is done by the system, and the temperature remains constant at the high temperature isotherm. In step two, we had the reversible adiabatic expansion. No heat enters or leaves, work is done by the system, and the temperature decreases. Step 3, reversible isothermal compression. Heat leaves the system into the low temperature reservoir. So that was what was going on up here. So we have the heat going into the low temperature reservoir. Work is done on the system, and the temperature remains constant at the low temperature isotherm. Step 4, reversible adiabatic compression. No heat enters or leaves. Work is done on the system, and the temperature increases. So one thing to notice here is that after we go through this entire cycle, we end up right back where we started right here. So we have the isothermal expansion, then the adiabatic expansion, then the isothermal compression, and the adiabatic compression, and we end up right back at A there. Going around the cycle from point A back to point A, it ends up back to the original conditions. This means that the change in internal energy is equal to 0, and so by the first law of thermodynamics, we can add up all of these things. So the heat and work for step 1, the work for step 2, the heat and work for step 3, and the work for step 4. And if we add them all up, we get 0. We can break this up into the work done by the cycle and the heat transferred during the cycle. So this is just the work terms right here, then the heat terms right here. And because the change in internal energy is 0, we know that adding both of those up will just be equal to 0, meaning that the heat of the cycle is equal to the negative work of the cycle. We then define the efficiency, this E here, by how much work can be done, so the W cycle, using just the heat that enters the system. So the heat entering the system is the energy of our engine, and so we want to know how much work can we get out of the energy that's entering the system. And so we define it like this, where we have W cycle over Q1, where Q1 was the heat entering, and we set it negative like this. Thus the efficiency is how much of the heat going into the system is converted into work. Since the work done by the system is negative, this negative sign here makes the efficiency positive if the engine is putting out work. So if our engine is actually doing work, that should give us a positive efficiency. efficiency. But since the heat is equal to the negative work, we can eliminate the negative sign and write the efficiency like this. So we have Q cycle over Q1, which remember Q cycle is just Q1 plus Q3. So it's Q1 plus Q3 over Q1. Q1 over Q1 is 1, and then we have Q3 over Q1. But since Q3 is negative, since it is the heat leaving the system, we get that Q3 over Q1 is also negative. And this means that 1 plus this negative number will be somewhere between 0 and 1, means that E will be somewhere between 0 and 1 inclusive, where E equals 0 would be if the engine did no work at all, and E equals 1 if the engine is perfectly efficient, so a perpetual motion machine. As we'll be discussing in this video and in upcoming videos, we know that E cannot equal 1 for reasons we'll get into in more detail in later videos. For steps 1 and 3, the change in internal energy is 0, since the change in internal energy for a change in volume at constant temperature is equal to 0. That means that Q is equal to negative W, so heat is equal to the negative work for steps 1 and 3. And so from video 7, we can use this equation right here. And so for this particular case, we would have VB over VA for our Q1 and VD over VC for our Q3. So this is going from A to B, this is going from C to D. And that was our isothermal expansion and our isothermal compression. For steps 2 and 4, so our adiabatic steps, we can use this from video 10. So that's our VI over VF to the power of 2/3 equals TF over TI. And so for this particular case, for step 2, we can use VB over VC equals the temperature at the low isotherm over the temperature at the high isotherm. For step 4 is VA over VD to the 2/3 power equals the temperature at the low isotherm over the temperature at the high isotherm. Both are equal to this T low over T high, so we can equate them. If we raise it to the 3/2 power, we just end up with this VA over VB equals VD over VC. So we can make some substitutions here, and so what we end up with is this right here for our Q3. So this ends up being our Q3 right there. And then so what we can do is just divide these. Remember, we're trying to find what the efficiency is. We said that there was a Q3 over Q1 term, so we just take our equations for Q3 and divide it by the equation for Q1, and we end up with negative T low over T high. So that's the temperature at the low isotherm and the temperature at the high isotherm. And so it gives us this as our efficiency, 1 minus T low over T high. This tells us that the efficiency of the engine will increase as the difference between T low and T high increases. So we need to have a bigger difference in temperature between our heat reservoir and our heat sink. Further, it tells us that the engine can only be perfectly efficient when the heat sink is equal to 0. So the temperature of the heat sink has to be equal to 0, because only then will this term right here go to 0, and that gives us the efficiency of 1. Thus, this can only happen if the heat sink is at absolute 0. Indeed, absolute 0 can be defined as the temperature, which would make the Carnot engine perfectly efficient. Reaching absolute 0 is impossible. We'll discuss this in more detail in future videos, meaning that a perpetual motion machine is impossible. We can combine our two expressions for efficiency. So remember, we had this in terms of the heat, then this in terms of the temperature, and so the 1's will cancel out, so we get Q3 over Q1 equals negative T low over T high. We then add this on both sides, so we get this equal to 0. We do a little bit of manipulation here. We get Q3 over T low plus Q1 over T high equals 0. Notice that Q3 is the heat going into the heat sink at T low. So this one right here, this first term, captures everything happening at the heat sink, and then Q1 is the heat coming from the heat reservoir, and T high is the temperature of the reservoir. And since Q2 equals Q4 equals 0, this expression contains all of the heats of the Carnot cycle. Since the two terms add to 0 and the system goes back to its original conditions after one cycle, it means that the path to get back to the original conditions is path independent. In other words, the relationship between the heat and absolute temperature is a state function. We can define the state function as the entropy, and so we call that S. We'll be discussing entropy in much more detail in the following videos. And in fact, I've been using these books as my resources here, so references are always in the lecture notes, and I've been focusing on the physical chemistry one here, but in the next few videos, I'm actually going to go to this book right here, and so we'll be going into a lot more detail about the entropy than what you would actually get in a physical chemistry textbook. And this is going to use a bit more sophisticated math, so there is a bit more of a math boundary here, but I think it's worthwhile to go into more detail on the entropy here, because this is kind of a very misunderstood concept, and I think this will give us a deeper understanding of it. But Anyway, that was everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you found that helpful, and I will see you in the next one.